we've got Kaylee, we've got lots of people in the audience so far for a
Haley.
nice summer day. I have got Matthew Lloyd Davies, who's coming back by popular demand. We had such a
Yeah,
wonderful
I
call.
love that. Popular demand.
No,
Oh.
it's true. It was your call was refreshing and nice. And I'm really excited about this because the first time we went through your background and I have
That was
recently
funny.
I've learned that how important the intersection between health and acting in our jobs can be. And we were talking before the call about your recent dramatic health changes. And I have also had a dramatic realization. I think I might, God bless the NHS. I think I'm, well, saying that they didn't actually pay for this one, but if I weren't in Britain, I couldn't have gotten this. And I think it could make a difference. And feeling better, I'm just now realizing how much feeling unwell created mental stress and struggle in the job. And I'd love to unpack the whole thing around being an actor and having a body,
Yeah, it's big.
right?
It's big. My body's about a stone and a half bigger now than it was 2.5 months ago.
Yeah, because
Because
it's
I
why protecting itself from the
no, because
so
I've
tell
been
tell
sitting
us
on
your
my bum watching Succession while my hips heal. Just finished Succession, by the way. If anyone wants any spoilers, wants to know anything about Succession, I can tell you.
I've never
Okay.
seen it. Is it worth
Yeah,
starting?
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah. No, don't start me. No, I'll go on and on about Succession. I can talk about it. Yeah, I have my I do have my problems with it, and they get more as the series go on. And when you get to the end, sort of towards the end of the third series and into the fourth, you're like, get on with it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I've been getting like that recently, like extremely profoundly annoyed at what I'm watching on. But I had a really fun thing. I was watching like a fun show that I'd watched the whole series, and season 6 came out. Oh God, I've gone completely blank. But long story short, I've gone completely blank. That is so embarrassing. But I realized that on the 6th season or 5th season, that it was Gildart Jackson who I'd interviewed, and his wife Melora were on it. And this is how good they are. I didn't even know it was them the whole
Good
time I watched
actors.
the series. I thought they were the characters. And I think I was even interviewing him at the time, but I thought he was the character. And that to me is like if Matthew Lloyd Davies is on something and he's my friend and I don't know I'm watching Matthew.
Oh, I
That's,
have a
you know what
story
I
that my
mean?
mum, yeah, my mum did that when my mum used to, obviously when I was a younger actor and I was doing rep and I was on tours and you'd do the show and your mum would come and see it and be really excited. Your mum, you've got through drama school. Look, mum, I'm doing it. I am making a living doing this. And she comes to see you want it to be good, don't you? Your parents have been shouting at you for years. You're not making money from this, son. No, 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 go and be a miner. But we did that. We've already talked about mining.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she came to see the show and loved the show. And we're in the pub afterwards, and she's telling everybody in the show how good she thought. I thought you were fantastic. Oh, and when you did that, oh, you were brilliant. And oh, I really loved what you. She went around the whole cast, and we were all sitting there, and everyone loves my mum, and everyone she's all this, and she's having a drink. And sort of towards the end of the evening, me and my mum are left alone, and I'm like, so you kind of haven't mentioned me at all. You seem to like everybody. Was this? Oh, did you really like? Maybe you didn't like it, and you just say. She went, well, it wasn't you, was it? So I
I
didn't know
love
what to
that.
say. I said, you don't need to say anything else.
I love that.
I think it's one of the best compliments I've ever had, to be
That
honest.
is. I love that.
Mm.
That is the
Yeah.
best compliment. And as your
I
own
hold I
mother.
hold on to that from her because you don't get compliments easily from my mum, I tell you.
No, that is the best compliment.
Yeah, I
Wow.
I loved that. Yeah, it was a very nice moment. Yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah, okay. So let's unpack.
So
So what was the first health thing you encountered in this job since you've been narrating or even acting that might have gotten in the way of the performance or the
Oh,
job.
oh God! If we want to do injuries that get in the way of the job,
Yeah.
I have. So my joints are strange. They're fine, but they're not. My ball and sockets don't want to be ball and sockets. So my hips, which I've just had done, obviously we'll come to that. But also my shoulders. I've had 2 operations on both of my shoulders.
Are you
Um,
hypermobile? Mobile.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it that was a problem in acting. I was a very young actor. I wasn't even in equity yet. I was on the stage crew at Chichester Festival Theatre. That's where I started in professional theatre, 1985. And we were in a show. I don't know if anyone knows a director called Nicholas Heitner. He was the artistic director at the National Theatre for years. Well, he's Sir Nicholas Heitner now. He's one of the single most successful directors in this country, and he's done
Wow.
movies, Oscar-winning movies, all of this. One of his very early shows was The Scarlet Pimpernel, and they needed more people in it. And the stage crew at Chichester, because of it's a thrust stage, and all the scene changes are done across the stage, and they're always choreographed and quite a big deal. So the crew are in costume to come up and do stuff, and he kind of liked the crew and wanted a bigger show. So he got the crew to be in the stage fights, and it was all agreed with the union. We could do this. We were paid extra, but we couldn't use it to get into the union, but we were allowed to do it as non-union members. We were called supernumeraries. So we were choreographed into these fights. And they were big, and we were so excited, young, and of course we threw ourselves into these things with gusto. And the one of the best fights at the end, it's because it's a kind of comic thriller, The Scarlet Pimpernel, and at the end we're the kind of the French coming to get him, and we find him, and there's this massive sword fight that ends up being a fist fight, and gradually, one by one, everybody, the French guys, the 6 of us, get thrown on this massive table. And I'm first. So you go up and you get thrown. Of course, we were into this. So you step into it, you fly up in the air, you come slamming back down, and you use your arms to make this big noise. Yes, we went for that. So I go up in the air. Okay, so my arms are up like this, and I come slamming back down, and my arm comes straight out of its socket. And I have done this before that, so I knew what I had done.
Because
And
I think this came up in our last call in another incident.
Yeah, and I was. I mean, luckily it's a very loud show, lots of music and all this going on, and I'm squealing with pain. I'm like, am I allowed to swear on this call? Because I was swearing then. I said,
Yeah.
But it didn't stop there, because, as I said, there are 6 people in the fight, all of whom get thrown on the table. I'm the first. So I've dislocated my shoulder. I'm lying there going,
Oh my God.
and then someone lands on top of me.
Oh my God.
And
I'm
then
like in
someone
pain
lands on top of
thinking
them.
about it.
And
Oh
I'm literally
God.
screaming, get off, get off. And then, just to add insult to injury, at the very end of the show, at the end of the scene, as the lights are changing and the music's going bonkers, the last 2 who get thrown on top, they kind of slide off as if they're coming to. They wheel the tables on wheels. They take the brakes off and they wheel the table all the way upstage so it disappears behind something. Fine, except for someone hadn't fixed the top of the table on. So now I'm dislocated shoulder. There's 4 guys lying across me, and I'm squealing in absolute agony. They push the table upstage. The top then tips up. We're now rolling down off the table with these guys. I will never ever forget that. I'm literally backstage holding my arm, going, I can't move. I'm screaming, and I've gone white. So they get the ambulance guys who are sitting in the audio they always have like first aiders, and they start fiddling about. So, don't you touch it! I scream at them, don't you touch me, because I kind of know what to do. But because all this stuff had happened as it was, as these people piling on top of me and going like this, all the muscles had gone completely into spasm. That shoulder was not going back in. I mean, I do know how to get it back in. It's not much fun, but I know how to do it. But that wasn't going to go back in. So I'm holding my arm like this. So then we had to get an ambulance, had to wait for the ambulance, go to the hospital. They can't get it. It's like...
Did they stop the show?
No, I only had a little part. They got on with it, didn't they? They carried on. And I'm like, this, your body's the wrong shape. Your shoulder's down here. It hurts like you can't tell. And there's strange feelings. And then So they couldn't do it. So in the end, they just gave me some fantastic drugs, I have to say. And then they put a weight around my wrist, put me on a bed, and just hung my hand over the side of the bed and waited
See,
for it to relax. Yeah. So dislocated shoulders, not handy on stage. It comes out. I mean, it comes out very easily. I've dislocated it making toast. I've
okay.
dislocated it making the bed. It's stupid. So I've had to have operations. It's part of the reason I do post quite a lot about how I go to the gym. And that's part of the reason why I started, because I had to build up all the muscle around my shoulders.
So you did, so
So,
you did the exercise. Okay, so this is the
oh,
stuff I want to dive into. I'm interested in how different people react to injury and illness. And it occurred to me recently that what I think about what it means about me acting, pushing myself to do it, no matter how hard it hurts, or because I don't want to let myself down or other people down. And then also what you said about, I know that I've got this injury, this weakness, so I am very good at, well, I'm missing that mental part. I know that I'm going to die if I don't do certain things regularly to take care of myself. I'm going to be in pain. Do I do them? No. And so what goes on in your mind surrounding injury and your identity as an actor and as a person? And
but
what
let's see,
do
there
you
you've said that.
use?
That's you've said it there. You've said it there. I don't. I've never really considered myself to have an identity as an actor, and it's probably why my career hasn't gone where I think it should go. My
See, we all
identity as
look
a
at you and you
person.
are like a hardcore actor. Isn't that weird that you don't identify as that?
No, I identify as an actor, but I don't think of my identity in that way. I mean, come on, vanity has a lot to do with my exercise regime. I've always been a bit of a Peter Pan, and I now don't look quite as young as I used to. I have to say, the Zoom sort of enhanced thing is really good. I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, yeah, you men,
It's
I'm sorry, but the
yeah,
whole bone structure thing and the
it's
whole
it's
aging well thing, sore subject. Don't even want to go
no,
there.
fair enough. I think it has to be something you want to do, doesn't it? It has to be. I like it. I get a buzz. So yeah. So I've had these my shoulders, and I started working on them. And I literally had one operation done on the right one, I think. Yeah, literally a couple of months before I went to drama school. So when I got to drama school, I couldn't really move my arm much. So
Were
I
you
was
doing the
thinking, right.
physio? Were you
Oh
good at the
yeah, yeah,
physio?
yeah. But it's very hard. The physio is quite hard, and because you're strapped up for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
there's no muscle. You can't move it. So we got a movement class. I think it must have been week 1 or week 2 of drama school, and they're kind of throwing us about. They're trying to find out what we can do. Are we up for it? What are you, a mover? Can you even do what we ask you to do? How physical are you? They're testing us. So we're just doing daft stuff like tumbles and cartwheels and stuff you do
Yeah,
as
I had that
kids.
in clowning school, like
Yeah, no, but this was
embarrassing,
yeah, but
weird.
it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't advanced stuff. It was just like, skip across the room. They want to see you move. They want to see what you do with your body.
Okay.
So one lesson, they're all doing cartwheels, and there's some very strange cartwheels going on. And I just said to the teacher, I said, well, I've just had this operation done. And I was feeling like a bloody fool. I thought, I've not even been here a week, and already I can't do something. And I always considered myself quite fit. And so I said, I can't really use this arm. So oh, cow she was. She said, yeah, we'll do it with one arm then. Oh, okay. So I did it with one arm. And that woman has got as much to do with my attitude to movement and my attitude to physicality as almost anyone else. Gail Gordon, all hail. She was the most amazing, is still the most amazing choreographer, movement teacher. More than that, she gets you doing things or you just don't think you could possibly do. And I love that. I just being challenged. And she just she said, do it with one arm. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it with one. I was thinking, yeah, it can't be that much difficult. Not one arm. Okay, so I did it. It was a bit messy, but I didn't injure myself. So she now thinks, okay, he's up for a challenge. So she pushed me. And it probably started literally with that one lesson where they're testing you and finding out. And that's the sort of thing that they want to find out. So then the dance classes, it turned out I wasn't crap at dance. I'm not a dancer. Don't get any ideas. I'm not a dancer, but I wasn't, for a mid-20s, never danced before. I wasn't crap. So she would push and push and push. And I became actually quite good. And I think there was me and, we were probably, me and another guy were the best in the drama school at the time. And I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought I could dance. But she got me dancing. She got me a mindset that says, just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean you can't do it. And she got me the mindset which I use in my coaching for audiobooks. It doesn't matter what body you've got, you can move. You move like you move. And in what we do, obviously, if you're in 42nd Street and everybody has to look the same, and then there are limitations. But mostly, even in that, you are a character, you are a personality. We're not all 6'2", built like this with legs that go there. We're not. And nor do I really want to see that unless it is for effect. So she kind of opened my eyes, I think, to, as a bit of a snobby, middle class, self-righteous, rather too much, had such a good life, just thought everything should be like this, everybody should wear these clothes. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
I
a
have
bit
a lot
stuffy,
of
aren't
that.
you? You're like that. And she was like, shut up. I mean, she used to do dance classes. We used to do this. There was a piece of music. Was it Sky, John Williams, Sky? And it's just like semi-classical rock. And we used to be down in a squat, and she'd start us bouncing. And when this music started, we were already hurting when we heard the music. And she would just keep us there for as long as she could to get our thighs really strong. She would do it at the front of the class without batting an eyelid, with a fag hanging out the side of her mouth.
See,
Go,
she
"Get
reminds
on with
me
it,
of my
Davies!"
she reminds me of my kung fu master. I took kung fu for the only time in my
Oh,
life I was ever fit, and he would have you do things, and then like after class he would have you eat things that were like you would never consider edible. And now I'm thinking maybe that was why the psychological, you can do things that you don't. He also
yeah, of
hit us with
course.
bamboo things.
Yeah, that's
So
not, no, that was just his free, that was his little thing. I think, you might want to go back there and report him. I don't know, but
but you got me thinking because I know that I do I'm unpacking stories I've told myself all my life about things that I couldn't do, but I'm a hard worker and I keep my head down, and and I recently, for like 4 years, I realize now I have something called LPR, now that we're putting it all out there, with silent reflex, but I didn't know. And I went to the GP, and they a million different tests, half of which they're sure you have cancer, and they petrify you for 3 weeks, and you're like, still going to go on. You start to think of yourself as like this sick person. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe. And I didn't let it affect my job because I narrated. I waited. I spent all day with all my little potions trying to clear my voice, not be hoarse. And then like I would record at like 2 a.m. if I had to. But I made sure that my voice was clear, and I recorded and I focused. I made sure. But I found just like a miracle. I hope it's not a placebo. And I am getting like one of those weird culty people that like thinks they've got the cure to anything. I'm going to start going on weird Facebook groups and like telling everyone how it is. But I found a thing they sell over here in the UK that's good for if you have sleep apnea, snoring, all those things, that it's this, and it's
Mhm.
an exercise you do. And for the first time, I'm not experiencing as much hoarseness, and I don't have a trucker's cough when I wake up every morning. And I feel strong, like vocally really supported. But I talked to Nick Redmond. She said, be careful of like saying your throat is strong, because you don't want vocal training. They're different muscles. That's the opposite of what you want.
Mm.
But all I
Yeah.
know is I feel like I've done as much as I've done the last like 4 years with a handicap I didn't even know I had. And now, if I can get rid of this handicap, oh my God, I'm going for
Exactly.
those jobs.
Well,
Like,
but that's what it's about, isn't it? It is about that attitude, and it's about you've done it kind of the other way round. You've kind of said, well, okay, so I've done all of this with this barrier to moving forward. Now
yeah.
I've found a way to get rid of that barrier. I've done it the other way round. I work at trying to make sure the barrier isn't there, and or I try and push it away from myself as far as possible. I'm always the physical one. I'm the one. I mean, to be told you're going to have 2 hip replacements when I go running every day. I do a thing
How
called high
how
rocks,
did that
which is just
happen? Like, how long was the journey to that moment? And were
do you know
you
what? It wasn't
shocked
it,
or expecting it or
it wasn't a long journey. I mean, I bonkers in the gym. I'd go to the gym. I do it really quite properly with this particular gym I go to, and we do competitions and stuff. And you wouldn't know it to look at me now, and or even then, I'm not particularly strong. I just love doing it. And then I started getting this really bad groin strain. I went running one day, and I was coming down the hill, and I literally almost heard something go ping. And I was like, and I was limping for ages, and then I was like, okay, no. After about 2.5 weeks, I'm like, this isn't going. This is weird. So I went to a sports masseur who tried to just loosen up the muscles around there, and he said, "Oh, it could be all to do with the psoas, which is like the the muscle down the front of your hip that can get really tight, and then it goes into your groin, and it can really be quite unpleasant, the pain." And I had all these manipulations and movements and massage, and it was kind of, it was okay. But when I was running, there was a niggle, and if I ran downhill, there were
had you
just
gone to the
niggles there.
doctor? Had you not gone to the doctor yet?
Not at that stuff. Doctor, they don't know bugger all about the body. I'd rather go to a physio, or to the gym, or to the masseur. So anyway, I went to the masseur for the third time, and he just stood back. He said, "Look, I'm not a doctor, but do you have a history of arthritis in your family?" And I said, "I don't think so. I don't know. No one's lived long enough to find out." But he said, "I think you should go to the doctor and ask." So I did. So this would have been almost exactly a year ago, a year and a half. That was a year she did that. It's about a year and a half ago. That's right, because it was a year for that. So it's about a year and a half ago. I went to the doctor, and he said, "Well, you can have an X-ray. Go off." So I went and had the X-ray, and they came back and said, "Yeah, you've got arthritis, but it's quite mild. We're not going to do anything about it." End of. So I'm like,
Right.
okay,
See,
I've got to live with that then. So now I'm exercising and getting, but it was really quite painful. I started limping. I stopped running. I still went to the gym, but I couldn't run at all. I couldn't run across the road. I literally couldn't run across the road. I couldn't run 3 paces. I was taking painkillers every day, and I thought, oh, this is not good. I'm going to dissolve my stomach. So I stopped taking the painkillers. So pain came back. And as it happens, I was walking through the village one day, and our next door neighbour's a physiotherapist, literally 2 doors down. And she said to my wife, "What's the matter with Matt? I saw him limping." And she said, "Oh, he's got a bit of arthritis, but the NHS have said it's nothing they can do about it. So because it's not bad enough." And she went, "No, it is bad enough. I'm a physiotherapist. I'm telling you, he needs a hip replacement." So she basically said to me, "Do this, see this man." So I went to a specialist, and we kind of opened a back door into the NHS basically. And he said, "Yeah, you absolutely need a hip replacement." And the NHS were just trying to save money and keep their waiting lists low. So I was kind of sorry, we're a bit off the track of what this actually means. So when I went to the specialist, and he sat me down and said, "You definitely need a hip
but
replacement."
this isn't off the track. You advocated for yourself, and this is exactly what I didn't
Yeah.
know. I thought doctors knew best. They want to put you on PPIs over here, which they have in America as well. I think I don't know what they call them in America, Nexium
What,
or
the
something.
public-private thing? What's
They
that?
stop your digestive juices.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
for
yeah.
like reflux, they want to put you on that. They love putting you on that, which is like costs them like £60 a year. But it's not the healthiest thing. They assume you're going to be on it for the rest of your life. And it's not so ideal. And to be honest, with silent reflux, doesn't really always. I am not a doctor, nor is anyone on this show, nor do we play any on TV. Please check with your proper doctor for any medical advice. But yeah, then I found out about this, which is on the NHS. It's approved on the NHS. It's a little plastic thing you put in your mouth and you exercise 3 times a day. And it's on the NHS. And the reports have said that it literally does stop reflux, snoring, and sleep apnea in like 80 something 9% of the cases. But it's 120 a year. And the PPIs are 60 a year. So the GPs aren't budgeted to prescribe it.
Oh, yeah, but the GPs don't know. This is the other thing about, advocating for yourself and looking into things and not necessarily just going down the traditional route. Ask people, because GPs don't know. They can only know so much. They are a general practitioner and they can't know everything about everything in your body. And, so they fob me off, and then you actually go, actually, I'm going to look into this more because someone else said something who's a professional. And so you have to then, I mean, like you're quite emotional about having found that. When the doctor said to me, you do need a hip replacement, I actually cried in the car on the way home from relief.
Because you knew you were sick. You're being it's like being gaslighted to have somebody tell you, it's not that bad.
Yeah. So, but then I sat down with my wife and I was like, Jesus, this is going to change. It's life-changing to have it done. Of course it is, because you're in pain all the time.
Yeah.
But I go to the gym every day. I now haven't been to the gym for 5 months. They're still in touch with me and I'm in touch with them. They keep sending me free sessions. Come to a free session. Come to a free session. And I can't yet. So it's been a real life change for me. I've hated it.
Will you be better, though? I mean, does it hurt? Tim says when they say enjoy them while they're young, they're not talking about your children. They're talking about your knees and hips.
Yeah.
But so,
yes, they are.
Does it hurt more now than it did before you had the surgery, or better? Is it better?
It's better. I can't run yet because it's not ready. There was a complication with the first one, which meant I was on crutches for 6 weeks. So I've lost about a third of my muscle mass on this leg, which is really annoying because
it'll
this
come
is the
back
one
fast. I had that with a knee injury. It'll come back fast.
So I'm trying to. Life has become. So what was it? It was in the booth at 7:30 this morning. I finished at about midday. I had some breakfast after that. I don't usually eat before the booth.
So 4 hours in the booth. Were you interrupted by pain?
I was in 5 hours. No, nothing. No, a little bit because the where you're sitting, it's still not. It's still a bit tight. But then I'm out for a 45-minute yompy, what I call a yomp, like walking like a lunatic. Get home, had a glass of water. Then I'm on a bike trainer in the loft for an hour. Then had another glass of water. Then I did half an hour or so of proper strength physio exercises. So I'm trying to do that.
You've got to be in serious shape. Like I'm lucky I get out for a walk.
Oh God, you can't sit in the booth all day and not get out in the water.
Look at the
beautiful weather. You got to get out.
But you know what happens if I've got a very bad habit of working late, and if I let myself work late, right? Because I don't do any Joe stuff or any other admin. I only record during the day. So if I let myself work late, then I oversleep. And if I oversleep, I've only got so much time left in the day. Guess what's going to go? My physical health and well-being, or my recording?
Oh God, no! My recording can go first. Good Lord, no! I got to get out. I got to get out.
I'd be better off if I got out. I have to. I've got to because the secret no one tells you is that if you go too long not doing that, it gets really hard in different ways to go out mentally.
Well, it gets so. I mean, it's been hard for me. So when I'm in the booth now, when I get up off I don't sit or stand. I've got a standy stool thing. And coming out of the booth, I'm literally hardly able to move. So 5 minutes of just getting everything moving again. But it's my mental health. I've talked about this a lot before. If that I'm not your traditional narrator who's going to go on and on and on and on and on about what a brilliant job this is and how wonderful it is and aren't we the luckiest people in the world. I think it's bloody hard work,
It's a hard job.
and it's a massive responsibility, and it's a lot of pressure sometimes, and the money ain't that good when you break down the hours you put in for the prep and the admin and all the other stuff. But I do love it as long as I get that, if you like, work-life balance, I suppose, where I get out of the booth. And I was yomping up one of the fields outside the village earlier today, and I was just grinning. My next door neighbors came. I said, "What is the matter with you?" I said, "I'm just so bloody happy to be out." And they were laughing because they can't. Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, you haven't got your sticks with you. You haven't got your, well done. You know, I'm very recognizable in the village now because I was limping through the village for
I
weeks. I
admire
gotta get
you.
out.
I
Gotta
admire
get
you,
out.
and I think that discipline is part of what makes you who you are. I admire you. I'm going to model that, not till Friday when the heat ends, but
No, I love it
Friday.
in the heat.
I
Look,
hate the
I've
heat.
gone orange. It's
I
great.
cannot stand the heat. But when it ends on Friday, I'm going out in my fall clothes and my little cup. But so I have a question for you. So I'm really excited. I'd love to hear what your approach would be on this. And I'm just curious. I'd love your opinion because I respect your talent like
Oh,
immensely. And this just happens
blimey.
to come up. I've already got ideas, but you know, when you get a book and it's like the first time you've had this particular acting challenge and you're just chomping at the bit. I'm doing I can't say what, but I'm doing one of those like detective serial killer kind of things. I like the killer. Like
Good.
it starts off when they were young and you hear the story of how they became, but they really fleshed out a real like three-dimensional human being. I mean, I really feel for the killer. And he's a horrible, horrible psycho serial killer. And I can't wait to do it. And I want people to feel how I like the killer, right? When I want them to like feel the good parts of him as well as the bad. Do you have any way that you would approach that so it's not jarring in any way?
My answer to that would be don't look for ways to approach it.
Okay.
You have just said everything that needed to be heard by people who want to know how you're approaching that book to make sure that we're going to like the parts of the killer we should like. If you like the killer in those moments, then we will like the killer in those moments. If
Okay.
you
Got it.
think that, if you're reading the book thinking the author wants us to have some kind of empathy, wants to challenge
Yeah.
us, then that
Massive
is what will
empathy.
happen. If you go into it trying to make us like the killer, we won't like the killer. If you go to a party and think, oh, I'm going to make everybody like me, do you think everybody's going to like you? No one's going to
Good
like
point.
you.
Good point.
It's just, you know, sometimes the acting is just the simplest job on God's green earth,
You're
and
right. And if I try to,
really
if
is.
I'm going into it thinking of him as the killer in the end, whereas that's not part of the story yet. So I'm creating an archetype or whatever. I'm a caricature of the killer. Whereas if I
Yeah,
just play what Johnny Heller would say, if I just play what's on the page in front of me, I'm so
gotta love the
excited
Heller.
about this
Yeah,
one. I
and that's what's fun. But don't forget he's the killer, and don't forget the wonderful fun that you can then have with the irony of how likable he is in that scene, and then what
yeah,
he does next. You know,
yeah.
I just yeah, just be really careful of looking. It's that's, you know, there's something about this. There's a lot of you know, those sort of coaching sessions like on Clubhouse and all of that, and people are reading, and I love that, and it's great. And you just to listen to other people, I love that, and
Yeah.
to get up and read live is just bloody important, because in the end we're reading to people, and but we don't read to people, we read to this thing, and that's just bizarre. So it's good to do those things, but I always find it a little bit strange. I mean, I do get it a bit, but I always want to challenge people a bit when they say, oh, the genre this week is going to
Yeah,
be,
I have
I
a
don't know,
hard time wrapping my head around
well, I
that.
don't get the genre schmonra. Just tell the bloody truth on
Because
the
some of
page.
them say
Don't,
don't play it this way, do it as a thriller. But it's like, you're presenting me with the full-blown characters. They're not a thriller. They don't know they're in a thriller. They're a
no,
person that's,
yeah.
and I just realized talking to you just now that this bit right here, if you ask me what I like about this job, not the marking up. Marking up drives me crazy.
Oh yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
And I don't do a
See,
lot of it. I
sorted.
do the
I'm here
bare
to solve
minimum.
your problems.
But even the acting, even the narrating, yeah, I love it. But as you said, there are hard parts about it. But it's that, do you know that moment like before you're recording where you're walking around with the story in your head and kind of thinking of, ooh,
Mm,
maybe that I just realized that's like you're not doing anything, but you're walking around spitballing.
yeah, but that's why I read books way ahead, and sometimes too far ahead, because I then do have to do a refresher read. But if you read, if I read a book, if I was reading a book, if I was prepping a book now to read next week, I'd have such an immediate sort of picture, and almost the pictures are too vivid. That's when the genre gets in the way, because oh god, this happens, and then oh, and I know he dies at the end, and I know this happens, and I know that happens.
And that's where I was
Whereas,
going with you when I asked you that question, isn't it? That's exactly the
yeah,
route I was going, the road I was going.
but
I
if
was
yeah,
thinking,
but if you read the book 3, sometimes 4 weeks in advance, and it's just stewing in your brain, and then you
yeah.
start, just life happens around you, and you start going, oh yeah, the book is just life. It's just maybe a lot of bits of life put in one. It's yeah, I think you have to be really. I've just done a series of, I guess, what people might call cozy mysteries, but they were just people. The main policeman in it, the main detective, it's about getting his personality right. I don't give a damn if he's in a cozy mystery or a Monty Python
Well,
sketch. You've
well,
got to
what we're
get
talking
the
about is
character right.
caricature. We're talking about like in high school, the cheerleader, the jock. We're talking, it's
Yeah,
like the whole world is the Breakfast Club. Like and that's because the amygdala, I think it's the amygdala. Um, this has never ceased to piss me off because I don't
I'm getting
like it.
that.
That your brain evidently, I think it's the amygdala, that your brain evidently filters out. It's exposed to so much constantly that it filters out like 85% of what it senses, sees, and hears. So because it would explode if it didn't, I'm obviously not talking technically probably, but if it was taking in everything it was exposed to, it couldn't manage it. You'd go
No,
insane immediately. So it has to filter out. But that's why people they recognize they're heard. They like people that look like them. They boys will be boys. All those things that I think are the worst, most base parts of society, where lazy thinking, they didn't look beyond the cheerleader, the jock, the thriller, the romance to see who's underneath it. And
but it can be difficult. I mean, that's where, and we all know this. You get a piece of writing where it's very difficult to find anything underneath, and where you do have to find yourself being maybe a little bit more, as it were, positively creative.
because the
That
writers
that that
were looking on the surface. So,
Yeah, and I do desperately try to. I mean, this main particular character, he's a grumpy, middle-aged, overweight, smoking, gruff Cornish man, and it was really hard because they were quite specific. They wanted a Cornish accent, and he's already grumpy, and he's got a low voice, and he just barks at everyone. I was bored of him within 2 chapters of the first book. I've just done the 10th book. And in the first book, yeah, I kept questioning myself. Is this, can I do anything? I can't do this. I can see this is who he is. It is. Like, there's nothing in this book suggesting otherwise. But then, of course, by book 7, you've been doing it for so long, you then start to find the nuances you wish you'd had in
I
book. I'm
know.
just going to hang on. Wait, bear with me. Bear with me. Thank you.
Well,
Oh,
I can
bloody
edit
hell.
that part
Frog
out.
in the throat. No, keep it in. Keep it in. That
Like,
reminds people. That's what you do when you're being directed down the line and you don't. Oh, I'm
okay,
going to sneeze.
so you find yeah, yeah, it's my reaction to this guy is I wish I could fix it for him. I wish I could go back and fix it for him. I
He
feel so
loves
much
being
for him.
I mean, when you're playing him, he loves being him, or he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. Now, you could then go, yeah, but you see, he doesn't love being him. He's got real problems. Okay, so then you've got to find a way of, if that's so, that's so. But Hitler loved being Hitler. Don't play Hitler like someone you've got to love who you're playing. You've
Yeah,
got to love them, and you've got to, and this, I haven't done as many books as some, but in the 400, there are some books.
haven't done as many books
I
as
can
some, but
tell
in the
you,
400,
I hate them. I hate that book. I've got a couple in mind. I hate everything about it. I hate the genre. I hate the way they're written. I hate the way they're talking about women particularly. They always seem to come in for it. But I gotta love it when I'm reading it.
yeah,
I've got to.
yeah,
And
Joel
and
talks
and
about that as
you
well.
yeah, you can, you've got to, because otherwise you shouldn't do the book. You
Yeah,
step in that booth, or under your curtain, in your cupboard, wherever it is you are, and that's the world. And even if it's just loving that you're making that book work, even if it doesn't matter the angle that you come at it from, but you've got to love it as it comes out. And it's really difficult, and it's sometimes, when you're not loving it, sometimes you don't know. And I did, what was I listening to? Oh, Stephanie Nemeth Parker. She was nominated for best narrator, wasn't she? This
yeah,
past
we all love
Audies.
Stephanie.
Gotta love the Steph. And she did one of my courses, and I was listening to her, and then I was listening to something she did. I was on Instagram, I think, and I was listening in, and I was like, oh my God, I've never heard anyone just obviously loving what they're doing so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
And I listened to another clip. I was like, I don't do what, right. Get in that booth. I went back in, and I went back to I'd only just started a book. Let's start this bloody book again, because I'm not having that. And
Right.
I had forgotten that even if that particular print on that particular page isn't your particular cup of tea, then find the love of making it work. Find the love of your technique. Find the love of pulling that off the page and
And the
making
joy of
someone
being
think this
alive.
is good. Yeah.
It goes
And
deeper. It's who are you as a human being?
yeah,
Have you lost your
yeah.
joy?
Well, even if it's the most depressing book ever, Jekyll
Yeah.
and Hyde, you've got to love his depressing letter to himself at the end. You've got to love,
But if you go in a
everything about
miserable,
it.
feeling bad about yourself person that thinks you're a loser and why am I not succeeding and why is everyone else, and you've been scrolling social media for an hour, and then you go in the booth and then you think that the reader's not going to hear that in their ear,
Well, they
that
are, but
they're going to
and
hear
the
it.
trouble is, that's when people. I think this is the hardest job. I just don't. I find that hard, because I think that's exhausting. It's exhausting because sometimes you do have to engineer the love. That
Yeah.
should be a t-shirt. Engineer the love.
Well, yes, but I think we all have a response. I've come to a couple of conclusions, and no, I am not practicing what I'm preaching, but my conclusions are that our biggest responsibility in this job, to me, the way you can be a business person and do this job and be quite successful. I think it's been proven, and be all about the marketing and read the lines and be trendy and not give a crap about all this. And that's fine if that's the route you want to take. But to take the route that I want to take, I never know if I want to say route or route, but to take that
Route,
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 route.
you have a responsibility to take care of your physical health and mental health and build a strong foundation so that you can be an open receptacle when you get in the booth, and then use all your ingenuity and creativity and intuition and apply it to the
Yeah,
book, and don't take
yeah,
jobs that you don't think you can do that to.
yeah. You
And
can't get in the booth
yeah,
like knackered and miserable. And
you can't.
I mean, we all do get in the booth tired, of course. You know, what is my take on social media? Oh, is that what
Yeah,
that
you're
question is?
not
I'm
supposed
not
to
allowed to look at
read
that.
that.
But it's there. I can't help it.
You got
Um,
Matthew in trouble. Put a sticky note on the
let's
comments.
put it.
But yes, that is a good question. What is your take on social media for no, not no, you're good, Andrea. It's Matthew that's no, just kidding, Matthew.
My take
All
on
love.
do you want my take on social media?
Yes, I want
I am on
Andrea
it.
and I want to know, what do you think? Is it necessary to have a successful
I
career?
fucking hate it. I hate it with a passion I find hard to really get across. I find nothing. I think we've taken the most extraordinary tool of the internet and made it into some kind of toy for
Yeah.
idiots. And it's addictive, and it sucks you in, and it takes your life away. It's funny, I go out that it's strange that, you know, because I couldn't leave the village for 6 weeks. I wasn't allowed to drive for 6 weeks.
I
I was
love
in
when
the
you
village.
say
I couldn't
village.
go
Is it a real village or is it like
No, it's
a
imaginary. It's an imaginary village I
no, but
live
is
in.
it like a town, like a suburbs with like a boots and
No, it's a
everything? And
village.
really,
Hurst love. Hurst
like
Pierpoint.
Agatha Raisin Cotswolds Village.
Well, South Downs village, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, oh, you're gonna question me. I'm gonna have to send photos of the village now,
Yeah,
aren't I?
I'm kind of intrigued by the whole
But the
village
reason
thing.
I hate it is because I succumb to it the same as everyone. I've just gone off Twitter or X, whatever it is, because I can't abide the owner and what he's doing with it and what it's becoming. Facebook I can take because I got all my friends on there and I want to stay in touch with them. Instagram I kind of have fun with because I can put a few bits up there, but I just don't like the idea that if you haven't, it was not long before I kind of segued into more voiceover and less stage, that I remember people auditioning. There's a website called Mandy. I don't know if you have it in the States. It
Yeah,
used
I
to be
used to
called
be on Man, but
Casting
didn't
Call
that
Pro.
go like really bad route after a while?
It did for a while, but it's come back rather well, I think. But I remember people auditioning or asking if you wanted to audition, how many followers you had. I don't give a shit how many followers people have got when I was directing. If you're really going to cast something because they've got a lot of followers and that puts bums on the seats, then forget it. You're already off somewhere else. I just find it, and because I'm vulnerable to it, it's like, what's my attitude to alcohol? I'm vulnerable to it, so I don't like it.
Yeah, don't
Doesn't mean
even
I
get us
don't
started
drink.
on
It,
Cocodamol.
well, you see, I don't, it's just because I just find it. I mean, it's there now. Look, bloody Facebook staring at me. I don't know why, actually, because I'm not usually on Facebook anymore. But it's this idea that everything's on Facebook, and when you audition for ACX, how many followers have you got, and have you got this, and have you got, just do your bloody job and advertise the bloody book. Do you? I don't know what is going on with the world. I was sitting in the graveyard earlier because we've got a graveyard. It's a village with a church and everything, and I can walk to it and I can look at you because I've got the downs and I can't see any roads because it's a village. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to give my mate Bob a ring, and I
I'm
actually
going to
didn't
give
in the
my
beginning. I
mate
had to.
Bob a ring. You need to
Bob,
do
Bob,
science fiction. Oh my
and
God. Have you
Bob,
done
I
any
loved.
science fiction time travel?
Come on, Odd Jobs, the best series ever that no one's ever heard of, the
Is it?
funniest books ever.
You've
It's
done
called Odd
okay. I'm so
Jobs.
getting it because I need another one and I'm
Odd
desperate and
Jobs.
I
Odd Jobs
love
1, 2, 3, 4. Is there
and it's time
5?
travel.
It's more complicated. There is one where they do travel in time.
Okay.
It's about aliens and gods.
Okay, I'll
It's
still
about
check
the
it out.
Venice line. You'll love it. The Venice line. I shout a lot in it because
If you
The
narrated
Venice.
it, then I will check it out. I will check it out. Thank you. Oh,
But I sat there thinking, oh, I haven't spoken to Bob for a bit, and I just had this thought that, well, no one speaks to anyone, do they? No one speaks to anyone. I ring my friends up because I think most people have got it now. I like talking. I love talking, and I like having conversations. And I don't want to have it. I don't want to have a chat. I don't want to chat on WhatsApp. I certainly don't want to do a text chat. I'm trying to teach my daughter that when they start arguing on WhatsApp, it's probably because someone wrote something that wasn't very well phrased, because their English is appalling, because they're 12 years old. So then someone says something wrong, someone takes offense. Now they're all arguing. It's like, why don't you just ring each other up and have a chat?
but I have noticed people are more reactive. Like all these groups, like, okay, so I
Because you're
do have a
safe, you're at
small
home, no one can do it.
but like there's diet kind of groups like oh, and this was a brilliant question, by the way, Andrea, so thank you very much. And if anyone else has any questions, stick them in
Andrea,
the
you're going to be trouble. I'm
box.
seeing Andrea soon. She's doing my course.
I do love, but I do love the when the audience participates with questions. So so you guys definitely, just because I talk a lot, always ask the questions. um but I've
But
noticed
don't
that
let me see them.
groups, yeah, but Matthew's not allowed to look. But I did notice that a lot of the groups, like in particular, people are very, very reactive. Like one recipe groups. There's one group with like recipes, and people like yell at strangers for like posting a recipe. Don't even bring up like keto, non-keto. Like,
I'm gonna have to I've got to start interviewing you. Why are you on a recipe group?
well, I these things pop up on the sponsored,
They
suggested
pop up. You
ads,
see, of course, pop. Yeah, see, it's
and I
all
click
advertising.
them.
There's nothing on social media that isn't about advertising. That's
But they look
all
like
it is.
good recipes. And then I click them, and there's a bunch of people screaming at each other.
Yeah, go to the library. Go to the library and get a recipe book.
Exactly. I don't, I like, I've got to be honest though, I'm quite well centered when it comes to social media. I just need to, I made a vow. One day I was doing like all my financial stuff and I was really proud of myself. I spent the whole day sorting out like the whole will and being an adult stuff. And then I went on Facebook for the first time. All day I'd been busy. And the first thing I saw, well, on my page, there were posts from fellow narrators, and they were just signed on with 80 billion publishers that loved them, and they'd only done one book, and they were so grateful to be part of this industry. And I am happy and grateful for them. And then I went on a group, and they were like, AI is coming to get us. They're waiting at your door, and they're going to kill you. And we're all going to be out of work in 2 days. And I got to tell you, Matt, I felt like
Yeah,
immediate, like just bitter dread came over me. And I thought, and ever since then, I don't spend a lot of
I
time.
found a new attitude to it, because I very much suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. I
Yeah.
do. It's a bit like drinking for me. When I'm not drinking, I'm missing out. That's why I don't. You know, um, I've just found a new one, which is JOMO, joy of missing out. And I'm not being I'm not being glib. When I turned it around and went, no, there's something rather wonderful about not being a part of the conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm having a joy of I'm out of it. I'm all relaxed,
But there are
because
personal conversations. They're my friends that reach out on Messenger. They're the people that have been there for me at times that like,
well, that's a different thing entirely.
but it's not at social media. You met them through social media, you
Well,
interact, and
yeah,
then there are connections that we wouldn't have if it weren't for social media. And they're
yeah.
strong, wonderful
But
connections.
you said something very interesting then, which was, I made a promise to myself,
Yeah.
as if you knew if you didn't make a promise to yourself,
Oh
you would
yeah.
just go on it again. And I think that's not social media's fault. That's our fault.
Well, it
We've
kind of
allowed it.
is.
It's well, no,
Kind of is their fault. They've got algorithms that have figured out our brains.
no, they don't turn your computer on.
Yeah.
They don't turn your phone on. They don't
Yeah.
pick the phone up. They don't swipe. We do that
Yeah.
because we seem incapable of actually thinking, I don't want to be part of that conversation. I
Yeah.
know exactly I know when you say AI, just one name, he's a friend of mine, but one name comes up and it's made it like, I don't, please stop posting about this. So I don't follow him anymore because I don't want to be faced with negative, but that's my fault. I
Yeah.
go on it. I know it's there. So why do that to myself? So
And
I'm
sometimes you seek it
kind of
out.
not.
Literally, sometimes I've noticed I will like seek out things that I know it's like junk food and
I try and
Netflix.
just use it to stay in touch with friends. I literally brought it up. I said any notifications. I literally scrolled through. Said, "Oh, there's one because there's we're here and it's you." And I was like, "Oh, that's fun." And that's literally. And then I turn it off and I stay in touch with people and I love that. And I think Facebook's still the best because you don't have to have lots of stuff spitting at you.
But maybe we're looking,
Instagram, you don't. You know.
but look at our whole bent of our conversation, and it goes and it kind of clarifies what I was saying earlier, that there are two different types of career in this industry. I believe, I really do think that. And I'm not putting down the other type. You're completely valid types of career. But Andrea's question of does social media affect your career? I think it depends on which type of career you want to have. Don't you think? If your focus is, I want to be an actor, I want to do this forever, I want to keep my head down, like what Helen Lloyd says, a jobbing actor. I want to be the one the publishers rely on because they know I'm a known quantity, like Gildart says, I'm a known quantity, I deliver, they come to me. A lot of those narrators are not on social media. Like
But I
they're
find I don't understand how there is any other career because if you're not,
a lot of people are
there are.
making money and
Are
they're
they
all on
though?
social media
Are
and they've got
they?
lots of
Are they?
followers. Yeah, that
But
well,
how
not as much as
are
they
they good?
say
Are
they're
they?
making.
Oh, and are they good narrators? And if they are, then
No, but
great,
do
good for
they
you.
want to
But if they're
be?
not, But if they're not good narrators, they won't be making money for long.
Right? It's just as a listener, I can't help but notice a massive change in what's available out there in the books coming out.
But
And
the
yeah,
industry has changed hugely as
yeah.
well. As
And
you're
part of
right in
that
the
is
last, yeah.
more business than
But
acting.
I think it's still a young industry, and I think it's probably going through what I suppose you'd call its teenage years. It's
Yeah,
growing up too
puberty.
fast. And the publishers will be watching these SAG-AFTRA strikes carefully.
Yeah.
They will be watching AI and the union's reaction to AI carefully.
Because they just said they can't copyright an AI performance or something. I saw that somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of arguments left, right, and center, aren't there? But you know, I have faith in humanity, and I mean in the humanness of us. I have faith that when I watch TV, I don't want to watch Avatar because
That's what
I
I
don't.
want to have faith in, that there are still people out there that use the filter, that don't just use that filter and go for the easy, what everyone else is watching, that use like, that want to see the joy and the beauty in something. That's what
But
I'm
people do.
hoping.
Well, if you
Yeah.
want to, and I want to, and
Yeah.
most people want to, then people will. It will probably there'll be some rocky roads down there, but I think that's why it is incumbent upon us to do the best we can, to be the best
Yeah.
we can, and to give each and every author's work the respect that that author is due. Whether I hate that book or not does not mean I don't respect the
Oh,
book
yeah.
because I can't write it,
Staring down a blank
and I,
page like
I,
that.
I and I'm and it is I'm the last name in the production
Yeah.
process, aren't I? And
Yeah.
then so they've done all that work and they've managed to get an agent and they got a publisher and then they got an audiobook publisher and then they gave it to MacLeod Davies, who said, "Oh, I didn't really like it, so he made
Oh,
a
no.
crap job of it." And I can ruin years and years of work
Yeah.
by not turning up that day.
But I don't
That's
think
what I can do.
I don't think, and it's a weird distinction because I'd like to think, I don't believe that, I can't think of one narrator I know that would do that. I don't think there's one narrator
No, I
that
don't
would
think I
like
do
not do the
either.
best job they possibly could. But I think the distinction, and it kind of bugs me, but it doesn't really, is uh what makes a successful career? Are we looking for
Oh,
popularity and being known, or do we want to be a jobbing narrator like Helen Lloyd says?
you want to be a jobbing actor, like Helen Lloyd says,
Yeah,
because career schmear. I've done that twice now. Cut that
yeah.
out. Edit it.
Because that's the
Um,
business side of it.
well,
And
no,
I'm not
because it's
interested.
success. Look, success is
Yeah,
what you say it is.
yeah,
For a start, so I've got 6 people on my screen here. I don't know how many people are watching, but there's 6 people there. That's 6 different versions of success.
yeah.
I find it difficult sometimes when you're not, you're not in the group, you're not part of that, you didn't get up for that award, you're not part of that party, and it's like, it's all right, I'm busy, I'm paying my mortgage, which
Yeah. And you
God
tell yourself,
knows,
does that make me not a success? Do you see what I'm
I'm
saying? I think
my
we're
little
we're defining success by what we're seeing on social media. That's where the problem lies.
it's I think that's where, so and that's the other thing, isn't it, with social media? Of course, everyone posts, oh, I had a successful day today, I did this, I won. There's different versions of I won everywhere.
Yeah.
I suddenly realized I've started posting quite a lot of, I'm having a go, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm limping through a swimming pool. I'm walking back. And I think one of my last ones was I'm walking backwards in the sea to get my opposing muscles working,
But do you
because I
know
think
what?
it's quite
I
funny.
had a
Just
really crazy last few weeks, and the one post I remember seeing, remember I asked you when this call started,
yeah,
was something about, oh, did Matthew hurt his leg? That was the one post that got my attention. Did something happen to a friend of mine? That's the kind of thing that like sparks something in us. I don't remember.
yeah,
I'm sure they're out there about people. I did it myself, posted about new releases, but those aren't the things that like, oh, what's happened with Matthew's leg?
I barely post new release. I don't even know. I don't usually know what day they're released.
I do
I've
it for
done,
the
I've
writer.
done that.
I do
Moved
it
on to
for
the
the
next one.
writer because some of them I know aren't great at marketing or don't like to, and I love them and I love the book. I feel like I know them after I've done the
Oh
book.
yeah, but I don't think I have enough followers to have any effect on any
Well,
sort of
I
anything.
don't either, but I tag the writer. I do it for the writer. I do it for the
No, that's
writer.
good. But you're, yeah. Um, but it is. I think it's funny. I wrote some really funny. You said that, because I wrote some notes on success, and it was like so. Yeah, I was writing, just being up my own arse really, and sort of saying, to be, at the end of the day, when you read the book and you think you know what the author's trying to say, and then you record it, and then as you're recording it, you're hearing what you think the author was trying to say, and at the end of the day, when you listen back and you can hear the story that you read, that's success, isn't it? You've done your job. You've fulfilled your part of the contract, and you probably fulfilled part of what makes you a human being and happy, and want to live, and that's success. We're pretty lucky that we get to do anything to do with acting when you're in this industry, because dear Lord, I've been a jobbing actor all my life, which mostly means I've worked in restaurants,
Yeah, see,
and
that's,
that's
I
not even
love
a
that about
not
actors because it makes them more kind to each other. Because there's nobody at
yeah,
any level as an actor that hasn't experienced long bouts of unemployment.
yeah.
And if I think about it tomorrow, I get to play the part. I get to play the part of this like damaged person with this. I get a, you know what I mean? Like, wow. I mean, if we
Yeah,
stop and think about it,
I know, and we're so lucky, and it's, it doesn't, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a joy every day. It doesn't
yeah.
mean I don't, I get up, yay for waiting tables. I'm not meant to look at that. Stop it, Andrew. Um, it's I get up, no, I do, and I think I'm one of the few who admits it, but I'm sure I'm not. I think there's many more of them out there. I hate this job sometimes. I hate it. I get in the booth and I'm like, want to pull my eyes out. So I
I
pull
have
yourself
never
together, go
hated the
downstairs.
job. I've hated myself. Why
Yeah.
can't I
Or
get in the booth and do it? I never hate the job.
that,
I always hate
no, I
myself.
do, no, I hate the job sometimes, because I like this. I love teamwork. I love to interact and share ideas. I love being directed. I like directing. I like acting. I like having a rehearsal process where you get, oh, can I try that? Say, I don't get to try that. You get
Yeah.
2 goes if you're lucky, because you got to finish that book on Friday because you're starting another one, you
Yeah.
know, and sometimes it is the loneliest place
Yeah, see, I
in the
like it.
world.
I don't mind that at all. If I could
Oh,
stay in the booth just forever without my hip
God.
hurting and without like my throat going and people bugging me for stupid things like food.
No, but I know, and I get that, but everybody loves the booth, but I actually don't think everybody. I think you're right.
I
Look,
don't miss other people.
lots of people do, but I think there's more like me than
There are.
usually
Most
say.
people are like you. They want the human connection.
Yeah.
I spent the whole time in COVID going, seriously, what are you people complaining about? It's like, to me, it was like
Well, no,
the
I
best
came out.
life.
I came out. I was watching the news one day, and everyone's like, they were interviewing people, said, well, I do this now, and I do that. And I was looking, going, but that's been my life for the last 5 years. And I got really quite depressed for 2 weeks because everybody was complaining about, I can't leave the house. I don't see anyone. And I'm working on my own all day. And this, that, and and I don't do this and I don't do that. And I got really depressed. I went, so my last 10 years has been COVID.
Yeah, see, I have
And then,
never
but then
grown
I
out of
turned
the
it, but
child in school
yeah.
that like didn't want to go to school and deal with a bunch of weirdo losers that like would
Oh, I
like
was
try
one
to
of
like
them. I was one of them.
I will see, to me, they were losers because they wanted me to be like them and would talk about my clothes or whatever, when all I wanted to do was go home and read Wuthering Heights and watch the Rockford Files and like
Oh
live my
yeah.
best life. Like, and I'm still that girl. Why do I need these people out there telling me I'm not thin enough, I'm not appropriate enough, I'm not conservative enough when I can be home playing? I don't understand the problem.
God, isn't that funny? Because I'm not appropriate enough, but I'm too conservative. That's what I'm always told. It's
Are
like
you
it's get the other.
conservative?
Not really, but I am too conservative for some of the people in our industry.
Yeah? You
Yeah,
don't seem conservative.
I mix it up. I mix it up.
You seem like a wild child, personally.
No, I think I think it's easy to seem like a wild child.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
very easy. I've certainly slowed down since I got 2 metal hips, that's for sure.
Okay, so I want to ask you the question
There it
that
is.
nobody escapes. Famous last
Oh,
words. For the YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in the next 60 years, if you could leave them with one thing, one piece of advice, a funny joke, what would you leave them with? One thing you'd want them to take from this call and remember. Probably not the part about how we were all slagging off social media for 20 minutes. I might edit a tiny bit
go out
of
in the
my
sun.
part.
I just say go out in the sun, sit down with your mates, and have a cup of tea.
Oh,
That
I
would do.
love that. That's quaint and lovely at the same time. Oh, I love
I think
that.
just just be simple. It's simple things, isn't it?
I love that. I am definitely going to go out in the sun Friday.
Do it. I'm loving the sun. I'm out there tomorrow. I tell you, this is good for my hips.
Oh, yeah, the heat, because that's good for arthritis, isn't it?
Well, I haven't got arthritis anymore. They cut it out.
Can it ever come back again?
No, they're metal.
Oh, see, that's brilliant then. So you're like super bionic.
I'm super bionic, but yeah, but I have a lot of muscle building to do.
Oh,
Yeah, I got
that'll be
titanium,
good.
baby. I'm going to get scanned every time I go on holiday now. They're going to scan me and go, come here, sir.
No, I've
It's
got
going
a
to be.
metal knee with tons and tons of bolts and it never beeps.
I think these hips do.
Oh, do they? That
Yeah,
must be a lot of metal.
there's a lot of metal. Yeah, it is. They're quite big.
Wow. Wow. See, Steve Majors. Yeah, who was he? He was the Bionic Man, wasn't he?
He was the yes, he was.
I might need
Not
to check
me.
out those old episodes. I need something old retro to
Ah,
catch up on.
was he Steve Majors? No.
Yeah, Kaylee said it was Steve Majors. I think that's who it was, the Bionic Man.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, gotta love
Brilliant.
him.
Well,
Married to
I'm really,
Farrah
really
Fawcett.
happy that you've gotten this done and taken care of, and so you'll be like me. Like I always think the line, now that I'm feeling better, which is like I'm so grateful. I mean, I'm just like so grateful. I never thought that I could get better. And now that somebody's saying, oh, it's just an exercise, you can build up muscles. You know, Alice in Wonderland, the bit where she says, after this, I won't think anything of falling off Auntie whatever's roof, right? That's how I feel like with you with the
Yeah.
hips. Like after this and after having done that, you're gonna like really feel like Superman once you're back.
And also, and I think before we finish, I think because you've said something interesting about this and about health, and we talk a lot about mental health, and we've kind of skirted around that today. Lee Majors, that was it. I knew it wasn't. Yeah, Steve Austin, Lee Majors. I'm not allowed to look at that, Kaylee.
No, it's okay. I think we're
But
past.
you know, you know, never mind social media and how much I hate it, even though I look at it. The physical part of what we do is so. It isn't that. What am I trying to say? We sit still for a long time.
Yeah.
And that means you got to get out, because anything that is slightly wrong with you is getting worse every moment of your life that you're not doing something about it. And that sitting still in there is going to make it worse if you don't get out and do something about it, even if it's and when we talk mental health, get out, stare at the sun, sit down and have a cup of tea.
I mean, I
Get
stand
out of the
recording, but I'm
booth.
noticing my standing is like getting worse.
Then do posture exercises.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be standing. I've
Mm.
tried standing. I just get tired and I just too lazy for I want to
I
sit.
can't, I slump too
But if
much
you're
if I sit.
but then you know it's really important physically to get out. If I mean I've had my hips done 6 weeks, la-di-da-di-da, I'm walking around. I'll probably be jogging around in a few months if I didn't do much. But if I don't address the fact that I've got these problems, it's going to get worse and worse. I'm going
The
to age so
cumulative
fast.
effect. It's you're
Yeah,
either
sitting.
doing something at every moment to make yourself better, or you're doing something at every moment to make yourself worse.
And that is acting. You should be doing something every day to make yourself better, whether that's physically, mentally, artistically, technically. Every day focus on something that makes you better than you were the day before,
But I
because
think, but I
you
think it's
can't,
got to
because
be a
life
balance. It's got
but
to, because
life
I
is
every
always
day
pressing
work on
down
my
on us.
work, but like I leave everything else off the table. So you've got to have a
Yeah,
balance.
but I don't think you have got a balance. Then I think
Yeah, I
you need
don't. I definitely don't have
yeah,
balance, but that's what I'm saying. That's you working every day on something that makes you better isn't good enough if that's the same thing you work on, the only one thing you like.
exactly. Yeah, no, but you've got to do. But being physically fit is important. Being mentally fit is
Yeah.
important. The one thing I don't do, and I've got to address, is I don't read books, and that's driving me. That's one. It just drives me insane. I've got all these books. I keep buying books I want to read, and I don't read them because I'm prepping the next book. It's like, whoa, okay, let's have a look at this. I don't want to always, when I'm reading a book that I'm prepping, that isn't fun, even if it's a brilliant book, because I'm focused on what I've got to do with
It's
that
work.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, excuse me, when I'm reading a book I want to read, I've got to now retrain myself to stop looking at, oh, good, if I was reading that, I'd have to do that. Oh, I've got to remember that. I better underline that for later. No, that's not reading a book. That's narrating a book. And it's not, you know, and all of those things. And so you've got to, that work-life balance thing is important for everybody. And we always talk about it, and we shouldn't stop talking about it, because it's so it it helps. I can only I've you know, I've done a massive survey of one person, and that person is me. I truly believe that physically I work hard out of the booth. That helps me in the booth.
Yeah. I
Mentally
can
I work
attest to
hard.
that because my survey of me is that I've let that go and it has made it harder. And back to your teacher, the challenging the stories of what you think you can do, because that's what happens when people get, you hear about the guy that retires and then like slowly the world starts getting smaller and smaller because they start limiting and the things they can do. And if you keep telling yourself you can't do things and you do less, then you can't do things. You can do less and less until pretty soon your world is minuscule.
And that's and you see, but this is a thing. no, audiobooks can make your world very small.
Yeah, because you think it's
And
big, because your brain is in all these fantasies and all over the world, but you don't notice your actual life is in one little space.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very, I think we all need to remember that, because the day you need to get out of that space, it's too late. It's
Yeah.
like you don't realize you're sitting on a arthritic hip until the day you can't move to get out to fix the arthritic hip.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's really important to remember when you're sitting in your cupboard reading the book to a microphone, that if that's all you do, that's all you're going to do. And there is life out there. That isn't life. This is work. And it might be a joy to do, but get out, get in the sunshine and have a cup of tea.
Yeah. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Matthew.
It's
This
such a
was the
pleasure.
call we
I
needed
love
tonight.
talking to you. Good. Well, it's gone a
It was
bit round the house.
wonderful. It was wonderful. And thank you everyone for joining us on this last of the summer days.
Lovely to see
And
so many people.
it is. This is the biggest crowd we've had in ages as well.
Woo!
So, but I knew you'd be a big pool. Everyone loved your first calls.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And you guys, the videos I've got like 10 or something in the queue. So the videos are taking up to a month if we're lucky to get out due to life and busyness. But I promise they will come. And this one especially. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thanks, everyone. Mwah! Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely summer. Get out in the sun. Say hello to
Bye.
your friends and have a cup of tea.
Cup of tea when it's cooler. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.